In lesson 4.3, we're going to continue with one-step equations like we were working on yesterday, but today's will be with multiplication and division. And yesterday we were just doing addition and subtraction. We still need to think about the operation inverse, which is kind of like the opposite. So yesterday we said that for addition, the opposite was subtraction, and then of course for subtraction, it was addition. And today, if we're trying to undo a multiplication problem, we'll do that with division. Division undoes multiplication. And then multiplication undoes division. Okay, so here's what's going to happen. We want to split the equation down from the equals, just like we did yesterday. And you do that in your notes too, please. And then we're trying to get the x by itself. So I'm looking at how is this 5 attached to the x? And even though we don't see the symbol, there's like a little time sign in between those two. And I want to undo the multiplication, so I'm going to divide both sides by 5. And we'll just show it like a fraction because that means divide by 5. Now over on the left-hand side, 5 divided by 5 equals 1. So we can cancel that out, and I could write 1x if I want to. We don't usually write that. We usually just put the x, but 1x and x mean the same thing. So the 5 was able to cancel out the 5 by dividing, and then negative 30 divided by 5 is negative 6. And that would be our answer, x is equal to negative 6. Okay, so let's try this again. So we're going to separate the equation at the equals. We want the x by itself. The negative 6 is attached to the x with multiplication, and I'm trying to get it away from the x. So I want to undo that multiplying, so I'm going to divide both sides by negative 6. A positive divided by a negative is negative, and 48 divided by 6 is negative 8. So my answer is negative 8. Now I know you're not going to check all of your problems, but you could, especially on a quiz or test. So say I just wanted to know if I was right, I would think like if I put a negative 8 in there, negative 6 times negative 8, it really does equal 48, so I can be sure that I got the right answer. Okay, let's try number 3. So you see if you think you know what we should do. The 3.2 and the x are attached with multiplication. To undo that, I'm going to divide both sides by 3.2. I would need a calculator. Most of us would need a calculator for this. So you take your calculator, I'm going to do mine. Let's see what we get. Okay, I got 9.4 when I divided those. And remember what's happening over here is that 3.2 divided by 3.2 equals 1, and that's why we get to cross it off. Okay, now in number 4, this equation in the beginning says y divided by negative 4, and I'm trying to get the y by itself. So to undo dividing by negative 4, I can multiply by negative 4. And those things, again, are going to cancel each other out. Multiplying by negative 4 and dividing by negative 4 are opposites, they're inverses, and they'll cancel out. And then on the right-hand side, when I multiply two negatives, I'll get a positive. 9 times 4 is 36. So if I wanted to check it, I could think, does that make any sense? If I had a 36 right there, 36 divided by negative 4 really is negative 9. So I can tell that that is the right answer. Okay, so we're trying to get the x by itself. I need to undo dividing by negative 2, so I'm going to multiply by negative 2. Negative 2 times 7 is negative 14. In number 6, I want the x by itself. I'm undoing dividing by negative 3.7, so I'm going to multiply by negative 3.7 on both sides of the equation. We have to keep the equation balanced. These cancel each other out, and I'm going to use my calculator and do negative 3.7 times 1.2. You can see what you get. I got negative 4.44. In number 7, I'm trying to get x by itself. Try to stay a little bit ahead of me now if you can. I should multiply both sides by negative 9. When I multiply two negatives, I'm going to get a positive. And 18 times 9 is 162. In number 8, I want x by itself. The negative 4.2 is stuck to the x with multiplication. Whenever they're stuck together, that's times. And to undo it, we're going to divide. So I'm dividing by the number that I want to cross off. So since I want to cross off the negative 4.2, that's what I divide both sides by. So I'll type into my calculator 57.12 divided by negative 4.2, and I got negative 13.6. And then this one, it starts off as division, so to undo it, I need to multiply. Multiplying and dividing by 21 cancel out, and y equals a negative 84. Okay, so number 10 looks a little weird, but one thing we can do is we could think of this as if it says negative 1x equals 32, because negative x really does mean negative 1x. And now, to get rid of this negative 1, I could divide both sides by a negative 1. So the negative 1's cancel out, and we'd get x equals a negative 32. And you might be able to just know that from looking at it. You might think to yourself, well, if negative x is 32, then regular x must be negative 32. And that's okay too. But what we're really doing is we really are dividing both sides by a negative 1. Okay, there's a couple ways to do this problem, but I probably would see that the 3/4 is attached to the x with times, and I would divide by 3/4. And you're able to do that on your calculator, or you could do it by hand. We know the rule for division. If we're with fractions, we would keep the negative 15 the way it is, flip the 4/3 over, and change it to multiplication. I could do a little cross reducing, and I would get negative 20. Or you could use your calculator and get negative 20. And then finally, we might have to write the equation first and then solve it. So we'll have to go back to these words we were practicing in the last chapter. Difference is subtraction. And where it says a number, that's where I'm just going to say x. So the difference of a number and 3 means equals, is 5. And then to solve it, I'll add 3 to both sides, and I can see that x is 8. You might just look at that and know that x is 8. That's all right. Okay, the sum is adding. 15 is the sum of 12 and a number. And then to solve this, I want x by itself. So I'll subtract 12 from both sides and get 3. Product is multiply. So we have the product of a 3 and a number is 21. To solve it, we would divide both sides by 3 and get 7. And finally, quotient is division. So we have the quotient of a number and 4 means equals, is 3. To get x by itself, I would multiply both sides by 4. To undo dividing by 4, we multiply by 4. And we'll get x equals 12.